everybody, Luna here, and welcome to Crit Roll Conspiracies, the show where we talk about all the wild and wacky theories that critters have about Campaign 3 of Critical Role. It was a shorter episode this week, but we got a lot of great details packed in, so let's jump into it. But before we do, this is your spoiler warning. This video contains spoilers for episode 10 of Campaign 3, as well as some spoilers for the Night Before Christmas one-shot and Campaign 2. Alright. Let's go! We kick off the show with another Nordverse ad, and I know we're getting the animated series very soon this month, but can we get like an animated Nordverse series? Because I would definitely watch that. Just me? The game picks up right where we left off last week, with Chetney having burst through the office window of Vali Jatrana, who is the business commissioner based in the Mirror Towers. The party had been investigating the office because they suspected that Gurge was being held there, who is the person that Chetney is looking for. After Chetney bursts through the window, what ensues next can only be described as shenanigans. Through lots of spells and silliness, and also a lot of spookiness from Laudna, the party managed to convince Vali that the tower is haunted, and he ends up fleeing the scene in fear, throwing down the sword that he'd been using to kind of slash through the air looking for Chetney. I'm honestly getting really worried for the party. This is the second time in a single day that they have caused a ruckus with officials, because earlier in the day we had that scene with Fern where she was in the warden's office and got busted there as well. Not to mention, as Dan pointed out, Imogen took a letter with her name on it from Lord Estros to the business commissioner, and it was left in his office. It's kind of suspicious that they rock up with this letter and then mere moments later, Chetney is busted in the office. It's very concerning. They keep leaving pointers back to Lord Estros, who specifically has said, like, don't tell people that you're working for me. The party is extremely conspicuous, and I get a feeling they would be very easy to, like, pick out of a lineup. So I just hope that they're maybe going to be a little bit more careful from now on. Chetney explains to the party what happened and how he saw the name The Nightmare King in a notebook in the office, and Fern actually recognizes this name. This is a name that's familiar to her from stories that she was told as a child by her grandmother when she was living in the Feywild. These stories were all very scary and about this entity that would like bend and twist nature, and also apparently give wet willies. There were a couple of interesting theories about the Nightmare King in the comments of my video last week. Some of you naysayed my theory about Brennan Lee Mulligan coming on the show to play the Nightmare King, but there were plenty of true believers out there. Believers? Brenevers? Breneviers? Okay, it doesn't work, just move on. Last week I talked a little bit about how Ira was the same name as a member of the Somnovum who the party in Campaign 2 encountered in Cognosa. So many fantasy names. And Brandon points out that the Cognosa were all about shaping dreams into reality, and like the Nightmare King, you know, sounds like it's going to be associated with dreams of some kind. So that could possibly be a connection. I Kill for Profit, kind of a scary username, believes that the Nightmare King is having Ira experiment on people to create weapons. And this also ties in with some theories we've talked about previously about Brunestone being used in experiments on people or to create things. And we did see some super weird stuff in Aor in Campaign 2 involving weird experiments and stuff, so this could potentially be a tie-in to that. A few of you also pointed out that the Nightmare King is the name that Liam used for Jack Skellington, or, you know, his version of them. Now, I tried to check this on Crit Roll Wiki, but they only had listed the Hollow one. They didn't have the Nightmare King listed. So if you've watched it recently, let me know in the comments below if it was actually called the Nightmare King. I just watched it recently myself, but I have like the memory of a sieve and I can't remember. We could be seeing Matt draw some inspiration from that one shot for this game, especially because Chetney is, you know, directly based on one of the characters in that game. One of my favorite theories about the Nightmare King comes from my good friend Matthew Perkins and fellow Crit Roll YouTuber. He suggests that the Nightmare King is going to be an edgy teenager, and I just like this theory a lot because anytime Matt plays a sulky teenager, it's very amusing. I just love the idea of the like big bad of the campaign just being like, whatever. After the party successfully manages to avoid the authorities once again, they decide to split into 3 groups. Chetney, Dorian, and Orem are going to stay and scope out the tower and see what happens as a result of their break-in. Fern, Laudna, and Imogen are going to go on their date with Pretty the ogre, accompanied by Fresh Cut Grass, who has never seen a date before, so is just going along to observe. And Ashton is going to pay off some debt to an old friend. We get some really cute scenes between Chetney, Dorian, and Orym, but it's really hard to tell if Chetney is being sincere when he's talking with Dorian about, being friends. It's just really hard to take anything Travis says seriously when he's playing Chetney because it's just such a funny character. A lot of you out there are still not sold that Chetney is going to be Travis's final character. It keeps popping up in my comments. Quite a few of you are gunning for him to be playing Gurge now, especially that we have confirmation that Gurge is a werewolf, and it's well known in the critter canon that Travis loves werewolves. But I think Chetney is going to be sticking around. I've said it before and I'll say it again. This grouchy old man is going to melt all of our hearts. Just you wait and see. Speculation about Chetney continues with some great theories. I really like this one from Myriad, who points out that Chetney mentioned that he has made contraptions like secret doors and things for people before. He said that he's been sent here to seek out Gurge because he has a special set of skills that Gurge can help him find work for. So Myriad suggests that potentially these skills are building things like secret doors and tunnels, and maybe he had to flee Wildmount because he knew the secrets of some lair and he had to kind of get away before the evil boss of that area offed him so he wouldn't be able to tell the secrets. I actually really like this idea because I've talked before about how strange it is that Chetney had to move to a whole other continent to find work as a woodworker, which you think would be fairly easy to find pretty much anywhere. Jose also points out the potential similarities between Chetney and Chutney from the Christmas one-shot, suggesting that Chetney tried to or was successful in murdering his previous employer, which is why he had to get out of Dodge. A lot of people, including myself, have theorized that Chetney is actually a werewolf. I think it would make a lot of sense for Chetney to come and find Gurge, if he was sort of told Gurge is a werewolf who could potentially help him through this transformative new part of his life. And we've had a few times where Chetney has sniffed the air when trying to make perception checks, which feels very wolfish. Philip wonders though if Chetney is not actually yet a werewolf but is going to become one by being bitten by Gurge. And if Chetney is not already a werewolf, it wouldn't surprise me if Travis just literally threw Chetney in front of any werewolf he could find to get bitten. If you want somewhere to hang out and chat Critical Role with a bunch of other critters, feel free to jump into my Discord. We have a whole section devoted to Critical Role. We have a live watch party every week and we spend all week talking about our theories and ideas. It's kind of like the Critical Role Twitch chat, but just way more chilled out. And if you'd like to support me in making these videos, you can do so by joining my Patreon or becoming a member right here on YouTube. Not only will you be supporting me and helping me do things like upgrade my equipment and spend more time on my editing and my videos, you'll also get access to exclusive behind the scenes content where I share little vlogs and little newsletters talking about all the things that I'm up to sort of behind the scenes. All the details about that are in the description below. Moving on over to Ashton, they head to a fancy part of town. They head to a spire that we actually haven't been to before, the Lucent Spire, and he goes to the house of Gianna Hexman, an elf who looks to be about 60 in human years, which means she's probably actually quite old in elf years. We learn that this is the same JH that the letter was from that Ashton received a couple of episodes ago, as well as the same JH that was on the chest that was broken into or broken out of in the job that Dorian's brother Cyrus was on that he now has a bounty on his head for. So many things going on. I'm sending my condolences to all the critters who have broken hearts now that we've learned that JH is in fact not Jarrett Howarth, who is a character from Campaign 1 that a lot of people guessed these initials belong to. Ashton is in quite a lot of debt to Gianna, and we actually learn a pretty comprehensive backstory about Ashton. Thank you, Taliesin! As he reveals later onto the party that the reason he is in debt to Gianna is because he was hired along with his crew, the Nobodies, to break into her house, and the job went badly. He was really badly injured. He was thrown out of a window, it fell quite far, and his crew and Milo, who we've met before in this campaign, kind of dragged him away and patched him up. In fact, we learned that that is where all of the kind of gold scars are on his body, that the gold he was paid for the job, for the breaking in job, was melted down and used to patch up all of the wounds in his body. And Milo also patched his skull with that glass bit over the opal in his head. We still don't really know what is going on with that opal thing. It could really just be Taliesin taking artistic liberty with what the brain of an Earth Genasi looks like. I mean, I've never really thought about what the brains of the different D&D races look like. But we also know he likes to put in a lot of detail and a lot of like little hidden secrets in with his characters. So I bet you that something interesting is going to come out of it. Gianna offers Ashton a job to essentially wipe out the rest of his debt. And the job is to break into a museum, the Twilight Mirror Museum in Heartmoor, because she has made a bet with another character, Yvonne Hydroga. She's going to hire a crew to try and break into his place, and he's going to try and hire a crew to break into her place. So she's asked Ashton to kind of head up this crew. He said he's going to talk to the party about it, and he's going to get back to her later. He describes Gianna to the party as being a collector, and also as someone who is true to her word. So I think this is probably going to end up being a reoccurring relationship throughout the campaign, especially if she has access to things like magic items. That could be really useful for the party moving forward. Plus, she is the one, we also learn, she is the one who has put the bounty out on Cyrus's head. So hopefully that relationship, they're going to be able to use that to get rid of that bounty, so Dorian can sleep at night. There is one line that I would like to know more about, and Taliesin mentions that when Milo was healing him, did it without using any healing magic, that he used some chaos fairy magic bullshit. And I don't know if that's a throwaway line or if it means something more. We already have a connection to the Feywild with Fern. We've potentially got one with the Nightmare King. Could there be one here with Milo? Let's move on to what we were all waiting for, the date. I was so thrilled that they didn't stand pretty up. I would have been devastated. I think none of us would have forgiven them. So I was very, very pleased that they prioritized going on the date. And this whole scene, Pretty is such a good boy in his little bow tie and with his little vegetable gifts. And then they just gave him like a pile of trash. That was pretty bad. When he said he was not interested in dating them, I was dying. I could barely contain myself. I've got to hand it to Matt. I actually think that was some top tier DMing, because Pretty saying so sweetly and gently and kindly to them that he didn't want to date them was the perfect end to this story without things feeling yucky. Because I think, we were all feeling a bit worried that the party was going to have to reject this NPC. Well, I say party, but like the three of them were going to reject this NPC and we were all going to be heartbroken. But the way that Matt narrated this happening just means it's a perfect little like end to that storyline without Fern, Lord or Imogen being the ones doing the rejecting and like having to end this ogre romance. Oh, Pretty. I am invested in your happiness. After the date, the party meets back up again and heads to the Moon Tower to do some crime, because, why not? It goes pretty badly to begin with, but then with some devastatingly horrifying uses of silent image, Lordna manages to bypass the guards for them. None of those guards are ever, leaving the house at nighttime again. They end up back at the secret staircase that Chetney discovered last episode, and this time they hear a creepy humming. Anytime there's creepy humming, you just know it's gonna be a bad time. They hear Ira talking and they hear him say, "Don't worry, my pets, as much as I'm loath to leave our setup. Let's see how much we can get done." I can't do the Matt Mercer creepy voice, but you get the vibe. We also hear that Gurge is trapped or imprisoned down there. Chetney recognizes his voice, and Ira says to him, "Oh, don't worry, friend. You have a gift that I want to share with the world." So I gotta hand it to these folks who pretty much commented this on my video last week, saying that Ira or, whoever had captured him needed Gurge to either spread lycanthropy? Yes, spread lycanthropy throughout the town, or to use his blood for weird experiments. It seems like this is pretty much exactly what Ira is doing, trying to take, Gurge's gifts, which we assume to be his lycanthropy, and use them in some way. He's clearly doing some weird and wacky experiments down here. There's some weird machinery, and I won't go into any spoilers for that, but it reminded me a lot of the series Arcane and the kind of machinery and magic that was used in that. And it made me wonder if Matt has been inspired by the show. And then Ira turns around on the stool that he's on to face the party. And what kind of nightmare fuel is this, Matthew Mercer? What is it? He describes a figure 7 or 8 feet tall with extremely long, pointy ears, super duper long, and these big sclera eyes that are also very pointy, and no nose, and then just this gaping mouth. This is worse than Duggar, and that was really bad. Okay, people, give me your theories in the comments below. What is Ira? What kind of creature is he? I don't have a lot to go on, but it did kind of remind me of the Simic hybrid from Guildmaster's Guide to Ravnica, because it says here that the Simic Combine uses magic to fuse different life forms together. They've extended this research to humanoid subjects, magically transferring the traits of various animals into humans, elves, and Vidalcan. And this race gets a whole bunch of weird, creepy additions like, extra arms and legs, or the ability to kind of hover around on little wings and stuff like that. I don't know, it just kind of reminded me of that. A couple of people in my Discord floated that Ira could be an archfey or some kind of fey creature, which again is like another tie to the Feywild. But yeah, I don't know, I'm kind of stumped. Let me know what you think. I will be extremely surprised if the party gets out of this without a fight. They have had one too many times where they've managed to talk their way out of being busted somewhere they weren't supposed to be. Clearly Ira doesn't find them to be a threat just in the way he has reacted to them, so I have a feeling that they're going to be a little bit in over their heads with this fight. But I'm also excited. I want to see the battle map. I want to see Chetney in action. We still haven't seen Chetney fight yet, so I really want to see what that's about so we can learn more about his abilities and potentially what rogue subclass he is. That's it for me this week. Make sure you leave your theories in the comments below, and remember, don't go outside if it's raining cats and balls.